I have to say that one of the people that inspires me most is Oprah Winfrey. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it really isn't. This woman is so incredible in what she's managed to do with her life, starting from a very, very difficult life where everything looked like impossible. She was set out to be another housekeeper, another cleaner, like her grandmother, like her mother, and everyone else. And this woman is super intelligent, but super emotionally intelligent. And I really like some of her inspirational quotes. And in fact, I've picked one up on purpose to set the mood of what I will be discussing in today's video. And her inspirational quote goes something like this: you need to find what sparks the light inside you so that you can illuminate the world. Hi everyone, this is Sherie and I am the founder of E-Cono-Me. E-Cono-Me is mastering life and mastering business in order to have a better me. And the better me will be a better you. And if you're going to be following these videos, particularly this one of today, I feel this really will impact each and every one of you in its simplicity and in its possibility of using the tools which are inside us in order to be able to achieve success in our lives. So before I go into a lot more details, I would just like to say very, very little about myself. I am not going to say I'm qualified and I have done this and I've done that. All I would like to say is that I have used the MBA of life, the University of Life, in order to teach me a lot, and I have managed to achieve a lot of my successes simply because I have been through the University of Life. And the University of Life is very unforgiving. It is so unforgiving that in fact it is our mistakes and all the very many times that I have failed that have been able to give me the foundations of where I have been able to progress from there on. Incidentally, I am reading, because it's a huge volume of a book, Bill Clinton's autobiography, which is called My Life. And in one of the very first introduction chapters, he explains that, you know, in life, and he's also had a very, very tough start in life, that in life, whenever we keep making errors, having all the bad stuff coming our way, which is exactly what's happening at the moment with COVID, and everyone might be thinking, you know, how will we ever get out of this? What is going to be life at the other side once we're out of this? But whenever we feel that we are falling down to the very bottom, whenever we hit rock bottom, it means that we have found the foundations of where we can start growing. And I really think that that is such a beautiful, beautiful way of putting everything in perspective and giving us the stamina and the courage to move on from wherever it is that we feel that we've hit rock bottom. But anyway, back to what I wanted to get to the point of today, and that is finding the spark within us so that we can illuminate the world. I want to start off with a little story about myself. I, like Oprah Winfrey, I'm born to a very poor family. I come from this very little island called Malta, and I will excuse you if you have never heard of it, and it's really even difficult to find on a map. Malta is a very tiny island. It's something like 16 kilometers by 20 kilometers, and it's bang in the middle of the Mediterranean. So we are in between south of Italy and the northern African border, and we speak this real strange mishmash of an Arabic dialect, hence my accent, which I really hope you find endearing and not annoying. And it could be either way, but excuse me, I have no possibility of doing anything about it. And so we really are restricted in what we can do with our lives whenever you're born in a tiny, tiny island, as I am. And so the chances and possibilities of growth seem to be very limited when you start off with your life. But anyway, I was born to practically teenage parents, and my mother was 21 when she had me, and my father was 24, and I'm the eldest of three. And I was born into a family with a lot and a lot of love. My parents lived together for more than 40 years before my father passed away, so they really had a beautiful relationship, and we all were grounded in the fact that we knew a lot of love. We knew a lot of love growing up. We knew a lot of respect. We were very rich in our principles, in our education, and in our ability to communicate with the world. But whereas we had all this huge abundance of richness in morals and love and stamina and encouraging our potential to grow, we were actually very, very poor. Just to give you an idea, I would always remember, even as a little child, my parents, huddled together. My father used to get his salary at the end of the month, and they would discuss from the 25th of the month to the end of the month how they were going to make ends meet. And we were told not to open the refrigerator and just pick stuff out of the refrigerator, simply because that would mean being disrespectful to our to our sisters and to the rest of the family, because there just wasn't enough to go around. And my father was doing 3-4 jobs, and he was during the day a driver at the local bank, and eventually, surprise surprise, I ended up working at the bank because this was his ambition for me, but I'll tell you about that later. And apart from that, he would paint, do painting jobs, do carpentry jobs, whatever came his way, he would do it just to make sure he would provide for the family, but there just was never enough. So hard work did not translate into abundance on a financial matter. So anyway, my mother also was always busy with 3 girls at home, and she was always a very good seamstress. She would get hand-me-down dresses and put these dresses together so that we girls would always have something new and pretty to wear, even if they were, recycled dresses. She would always make us feel like princesses. And there was one particular time when it was summer, and as I said, we're in the Mediterranean and we're huge fans of the sea and swimming. And as 2 little girls, myself and my sister right after me, my mother had sewn 2 very pretty bikinis in gingham. I remember mine was, these square boxes in pink and white, and my sister was yellow and white, and she had put ruffles at the top and at the bottom of the little pants, and we must have made a very cute pair. So went down to the beach. We always went to the same beach because we lived quite close to one particular beach on the island, and there were the slightly older girls who would gang up and would make everyone feel intimidated. But I remember this particular incident, and I am 56 today, and I still carry this with me because it is something I've embraced in time. And I remember one of the girls, one of the pretty ones, one of the sassy ones, one with parents who were a lot more affluent. And she told me, Ella, where did you buy those bikinis? She put words in my mouth. But as a child, I really, took it hook, line, and sinker. And I lied. I fibbed. I didn't say, my mother did these for us. And instead, I said, we bought them at St. Michael's. St. Michael's was Marks and Spencer, the equivalent of Marks and Spencer. It was called St. Michael's then. And the girls were all laughing so hard, and they were going, St. Michael's, St. Michael's. And my sister, just, hit me and ran. She was crying. And I stood there in my, little package of dynamite. And I said, I will show you. I will show you. I didn't know what I wanted to show, but I just felt so small and so embarrassed and so ashamed. And this was a point that I carried with me. I was ashamed on two levels. I was ashamed on the level that I had lied. And I was ashamed on the level that I had let someone put me in a position of shame. I couldn't work it out as a child, but I knew I carried this with me for a very long time. And I went back home and I told my mother, I don't ever want to be poor. I don't like being poor. And my mother had said, there is no shame in being poor. There is shame in being poor of your soul. Again, as a child, I did not understand this, but I really knew I did not want to live the same life as my parents were living, where they were working, their fingers to their bones 24/7 in order to invest basically in a good education to these three girls that they had. And it was somehow not enough. And I needed to translate, although that happened progressively as I grew older. How would I go from having nothing to giving myself the dignity of a life which I felt would be more conducive of the way I wanted to live? So it started off with me having this raw ambition to make money. But eventually, when I grew older and I did make money, and I, did a lot more money beyond my real expectations, I started businesses from scratch and took them to another level. And I started different types of business. I am a banker by profession, and I promised you I would tell you that because I had no choice really. My father's aspirations for me were that I would grow up and I would have, a job at the bank. So obviously that is how I started my career, but that is not how I continued my career because it was not the right career for me. And I did start several businesses, including retail businesses and wholesale businesses, and then later property and even small hotels. Anyway, I'll tell you all about that later. But in the process of needing to get rid of that shame that I had instilled in me as a child, and there were several other incidents later growing up which simply reaffirmed this, I realized that the spark that was inside me was nothing to do with making money, but it was the hunger, the absolute desire and excitement to reach out and do what seemed to be impossible. And it did not come as a shortcut. It came over and over from trial and error, more error and even more errors, but every error was actually the foundation stone of what later would become a success. So in my case, it was the hunger and the excitement, which I still have up to today. Whenever I tackle something, it's going to be 1000% full on. I will not do something unless it's going to be, full on. I will not do anything half measures. So in my case, my spark, which lit up where I am, was my hunger to succeed. And I have always been able to use this in order to take me further on in life. Now, my question is, what is it that sparks the light inside you that can illuminate your world? And every single one of us, every single person has something that sparks his life. It could be the child he's looking at and the love that they have to give to this child. It could be a hobby. Some people love to paint or love to cook or love to whatever, so many things that you could love to do, embroider, gardening, whatever. All these things, which could be little things that we just brush off as being, part of our life. There are two things at the moment which are very important. First of all, we have the gift of time, the gift that we will never be able to get again, simply because we are living the most unusual of circumstances. We're all in, either in lockdown or in restricted movement or in social inhibiting, whatever it is, but we certainly have a lot of time on our hands. How are we going to make best of this gift of time? And the second thing is those sparks. They don't need to be bonfires, but they could be sparks of what we always wished we had the time to do, which is what we do have now, and that's the time, is how we can light up these sparks and turn them into small fires, which can turn into bonfires, and which we eventually we can use to light up the world. And this is what I want you now to stop and think. What is that one single thing that if you had had the time, you would have developed, you would have studied, you would have thrown your passions into? What is that one single thing? Think about it. And when we meet next time, we're going to pick that one single thing and we're going to see how we can turn this to our complete advantage, and we can turn it into something that can become the needle mover in our lives, and that what pivots our life, and that will give us the stamina to grow and become the best versions of ourselves. And when we do that, everything else will fall into place, including business, money, less stress, and less worrying about what is going to happen after COVID. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, please do subscribe to this channel and hit the like button. Leave me any message and I will commit to answer each and every one of you. And this is just the beginning of a beautiful journey. Thank you.